everything from a marketing standpoint is built from your target market. That's where it all stems from. You can't create clear, engaging messaging that attracts clients if you don't understand your target market first.
You found your way to the Winning Tactics podcast with host Adam Sinkus. Adam discusses winning tactics with small business owners and entrepreneurs, uncovering processes and introducing the tools and solutions for enhancing the bottom line. Thanks again for finding your way to the Winning Tactics podcast. And now your host, Adam Sinkus.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my favorite day of the week, Winning Tactics Podcast Day. It is Tuesday, almost the end of April. I can't believe it. We are already at the end of April, but excited to be here today because, you know, we're diving down one of my favorite subjects as a marketer because, you know, I ask people all the time, I'm like, you know, who's your target audience? And my least favorite response, and I'm sure my guest today probably shares in this, is, well, everybody is. And it's this fallacy that I think we live in sometimes as business owners, that our product or service fits a lot of different people. But the reality is if it's for everybody, it's for nobody. At least that's my thoughts. So, but we will dive into that so much deeper today. I'm excited to bring to the show Tim Fitzpatrick. Gosh, I can talk, I swear. And Tim, welcome to the show. So glad to have you on. Before we dive into the all-important who is your target market conversation today, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Adam, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. As you mentioned, this is one of my favorite topics as well. So a little bit about me. When I graduated from college in '96, I got involved in a wholesale distribution company. That was my entree into the entrepreneurial journey. And it was a very good one. I got in at a great time. We grew at about 60% a year for 9 years, and then we sold it. I learned more doing that in 6 months than I did in 4 years of college. But after we sold, I worked for the company for a while. I got laid off from the company that bought us in 2009. I then transitioned into residential real estate. I was a realtor for a while, did not like it, and said, man, why am I going to work every day hating it? So I need to shift gears. And that's when I shifted gears into marketing, which is what I'm doing today. And we work primarily with service-based businesses, coaches, consultants, professional service providers, to help them simplify marketing so they can grow with less stress. And that's why we're chatting today.
Fantastic. So glad to have you on the show. And, you know, it's always so interesting to hear people's journeys and how you got to somewhere. I don't think most of us grew up, you know, when we were like, you know, 5, 6 years old going, I'm going to be a marketer, or I'm going to be a business analyst, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's always interesting to hear how we got from point A to point B. So glad to have you on the show. Really, you know, I think it's interesting that a lot of small business owners fall into this fallacy that I sell a product or I sell a service, and there is a broad audience for it. I mean, you know, Google is an expert at the broad audience, right? But at the end of the day, Google still has targeted products for targeted audiences. And if you really sit down and look at what those products are and what those product lines are, it all starts to click. So let's dive into that a little bit. Why is it so important that as a company, I define who my target market is?
Yeah, to me, everything from a marketing standpoint is built from your target market. That's where it all stems from. You can't create clear, engaging messaging that attracts clients if you don't understand your target market first. And you touched on this in the beginning. If we try to reach everyone, we reach no one. As small business owners, Amazon can target everyone, okay? But even if we realize it, Amazon didn't start out targeting everyone. They were an online book retailer. That was their niche. That was their their focus. And after they nailed that, they started to expand and go broader. Small businesses do not have the budget to target everyone. So you have to narrow it down. And when you narrow it down, there are a few benefits. One, it helps direct your sales and your marketing efforts to the right people. And when I say the right people, your ideal clients, ideally, your ideal clients should be people you love working with. They should be people that you do great work for and people that are profitable. So when we can attract those types of people, it's everything gets better. But until we know who those people are, we're just marketing at random, trying to hope, we're spraying and praying, hoping that, oh, wait, somebody's got a heartbeat. They've got money. They're ready to pay me. Cool. I'm ready to work with you. And most of us find out after doing that, man, sometimes you get done working with a client and you're like, dude, that sucked. That was not fun. They were hard to deal with. Maybe we didn't do good work for them. And why do we want to work with people we don't do good work for? Right? So that's the first benefit. The other thing is, and I touched on this, when we know who we're trying to reach and we understand them better than they understand themselves, and we can enter the conversation that they're having in their mind about our products and services, we can create messaging that's going to attract and engage those people. Super important, because everything we do from a marketing standpoint is going to be better and work more efficiently when our message resonates with those people that we're trying to attract.
So I want to pause here for a second. I want to take a step back to your first point, right? And I think it's really, really interesting. You called out Amazon. Even Amazon started with the target market, and now they are, for lack of a better way to put it, they are what everybody seems to strive to be in the retail space now. Yeah. But they started somewhere, and they developed something and messaging around that something in books that made sense to people. And that drove the rest of everything that they've ever done.
Yes, it has. And if you think about their individual businesses, you could still think about their individual businesses as niching. Right. I mean, you've got Amazon Video, you've got Amazon, the e-commerce company, you've got Amazon Web Services, right? And I'm sure I'm missing all kinds of other stuff. But, those are individual businesses within their business as a whole that are pretty targeted.
Well, I mean, even if you look at the greater part of just their Amazon online store, right? You've got a book market still, you've got, electronics shop, you've got a technology shop, you've got there's all these shops, right? And then the other side of it is now they have really two audiences, because they want to sell you stuff as a consumer, right? Yeah. But they also want to bring in other companies to bring products to them. So that's like a whole other side of their business, which they make a whole lot of money on as well. Probably almost as much there as they do in their own consumer goods. Yeah. So really, really interesting stuff there, even though they are big and I don't think they probably need to put advertising really anywhere, but they seem to be everywhere.
They are. They're everywhere. I see Amazon's orders all the time, or offers all the time.
Oh yeah, and it's like, you'd be scrolling through your Facebook feed, right? And all of a sudden, oh, there it is. You searched for purple widgets. Here's a special purple widget that that we're selling, right? Yeah, it's kind of scary, but what that circles into, and I'm sure we'll get there, is that retargeting your customers over and over and over again and finding unique ways to engage them, which I know we'll talk about that more. We've talked a little bit about the why it's important. How do you start going down that path of really going from everybody's my target market because I sell a product that everybody will love to here's who I should be focused on?
Yeah, so I run through a 3-step process here. The first step is just brainstorming. And if you've been in business for a while, you've got current customers, you have past customers. I touched on these 3 questions, but it's the best place to start. ask yourself these 3 questions. 1, who do I like working with? 2, who are our most profitable clients? And 3, who do we do our best work for? Okay. Why do we want to work with people that we don't like working with? I mean, we're just going to bang our head against a wall. So let's work with people that we love working with. If we're going to make money, stay in business, we have to be profitable. So we have to work with profitable clients. And if we can do work with those clients that we get the best results for, what's going to happen? They're going to be stoked. They're going to keep working with us. They're going to want to do more business with us. They're going to talk about us and refer us new clients. Those are all great things. So when you ask yourself those 3 questions, you've got a group of customers that you answer positively to all 3 of those questions. Now I want you to take that group and you can start to look at the demographics and the psychographics within that group. You start to look at the numbers, and the numbers are going to be different. You know, are you B2B? Are you B2C? Right? But age ranges. Do they have certain job titles? Are they in specific industries? Do they live in specific geographic areas? If I'm a local business, maybe I'm working with people in a set city. Do they have a certain amount of annual household income, or do they live in houses from $500,000 to $1 million? Those are all examples of demographics. That helps us kind of start to hone in and get a few more details about those customers. The psychographics, to me, are just as, if not more important than the demographics. The psychographics are their thoughts as it relates to what we do, their motivations, the roadblocks they have, the problems, the attitudes, the aspirations, right? The psychographics is what we can really hook people in with and help encourage them to then take that next step. But when we look at the demographics and the psychographics of that group, inevitably what happens is you see some subgroups come to the surface. It should not be more than 3. If it's more than 3, you need to pick, because you can't choose everybody. Normally, it's 1 to 3 subgroups. Those subgroups are your ideal client types.
I love that. Let's start on demographics, because I think a lot of small business owners overlook this, right?
Yeah.
Retail, your major retail players have become just stellar experts in figuring this out through very, very targeted data research. But one of the things that I think is interesting, you mentioned, like, are they 50? Are they 30? Are they, what age are they? Because at 30 years old, I have a lot different view of the world than I did at 15, and I will probably have at 60, and so you need to understand where your demographic fits within that, because that's going to be how you have to talk to them. Essentially, it's going to be a big piece of how you talk to them, where you put your messaging, what messaging you put out there, all kinds of stuff. So I think that's really interesting. Job titles, is something that's huge. Income levels, obviously somebody that makes, $30,000 a year. Yeah. I mean, if you're selling $10 t-shirts, they're probably an okay customer for you. But if you're selling $30,000 marketing packages, probably not.
Probably not.
So I think income ranges is another one that I think is often overlooked, and it's also a good indicator of what things they might like to do outside of work as well too, right? Because people with disposable income tend to have more expensive hobbies, things like golf and skiing and boating and any number of expensive other hobbies that are out there.
Yeah, so I think that when you look at the demographics, you want to hone in on those demographics that are really going to help you identify and target those ideal clients. So I mean, depending on the advertising platform, the marketing, channel that you're in, sometimes you can take pretty granular details to target who you want to target. And so I think, look, you can get into the weeds on the demographics. I mean, I was a math major. I don't think you want to go too deep. Otherwise it can get really, really confusing. Hone in on those most important ones. And as you start to really hone in on that ideal client type, if you need to refine them, you certainly can. Don't feel like this is set in stone. It's not. Your business evolves. And as your business evolves, some of your marketing is going to evolve as well. So, but you have to start somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. That's always, I think that's a really, really important factor to call out there, is that you're going to start at here. And this is who my ideal clients are right now. Right. But eventually your ideal clients who maybe are 35-year-old small business owners today are eventually going to be 45-year-old small to mid-sized business owners, and maybe even some of them large business owners.
Yeah.
And in 10 years after that, they're going to be 55-year-old. So, and you're going to continue to probably attract new other clients and other demographics in that space as well. But, you have to change your messaging as time goes on, because as their businesses and their, what they find important evolves over time as well. So it is constantly a moving target, which is why I think, a lot of times I've heard this from folks, and there's a bit of truth to it. Marketers are just really good guessers.
Yes.
There is a sad bit of truth to that, and I try and deny it, but the reality is I think good marketers make very good educated decisions, but at the end of the day, you're still testing theories against a base.
I think you hit on the last point you hit on is really key. Testing. I think a good marketer is a good tester, because you're testing, you're getting the data, and then based on the data you receive, you can start to make more educated decisions on where you need to make course corrections, and then you just keep testing, and you get better and better and better.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And your customer journey and who your target customer is, you'll get better and better and better at honing that in your business as well. It's essentially the same process that we go through every day. So
yeah, absolutely. So you want me to keep running through these?
Well, I was going to say, I want to pause on the psychometrics too, because I think that's really interesting and definitely something that I know for a fact gets overlooked.
Yes.
Well, let's lay that out just a little bit more.
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to start to hone in on some of the psychographics is to go through an exercise where you start to outline problems, questions, roadblocks, and results. Okay, so problems. What are the common problems that your ideal client has? Just brainstorm it. Just get it down on paper. There's no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to put them down on paper. Okay, so for example, our ideal clients, one of the biggest problems they have is they don't have a plan. They don't have a plan of how they're actually going to market their business. Do they have a whole lot of other problems? Yeah, there's plenty of problems from a marketing standpoint, but that's the one that we hone in on. Just start brainstorming, get that list down. Questions. What questions do they have as it relates to what you do? How do I find a good marketing company to work with? How do I know that I'm going to get good results from my marketing? Those are some of the questions. There's a ton of them. You just get them down on paper. Roadblocks. Well, roadblocks, I think when I think about roadblocks, I think about like the monkey on people's back that's telling them they can't do certain things. So roadblocks may be, I don't understand marketing. Our ideal clients might think I don't have time to do this. From a results standpoint, what do they want? They want to grow their business. They want it to be simple, right? They want to avoid common and they want to skip and not make common and avoidable marketing mistakes. The list can go on and on, but all we want to do is just brainstorm those things for our ideal client types. And that will start to then help you hone in on what are their motivations? What are the results they're looking for? What thoughts are going through their heads? That's the easiest place to start.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it's so important. One of my favorite lines about sales and marketing in general is, people don't buy from companies. People buy from people, and good salesmen are not in the business of selling a product or service. They're in the business of selling a solution.
Yes.
And it really, that whole thing kind of resonates to, we have to be a person understanding other people, and we have to sell to solve their problems, ultimately, as a company, so whether I'm on the front line selling or whether I'm in the back office, running the company, it doesn't matter. We still have to be solution focused.
Yep. Yeah. I always say our customers don't care about us. They care about what we can do for them. It sucks to think that, but all they care about is how we can help them get from where they are to where they want to be and solve the problem that they're experiencing.
Yep. Yeah. So let's dive down number 3. So we talked, we've.
Yep. So we got brainstorming, right? Yep. The next step is research. And that research is helping you confirm and validate what you've done in the brainstorming session. Okay. Now, a lot of people also say to me, well, what if I'm just starting out? Well, if you're just starting out, you can still go through some of those exercises of demographics, psychographics, looking at and brainstorming problems, questions, roadblocks, and results. And then research, where do you start? Okay, we want to make sure that the assumptions that we've made in our brainstorming are actually accurate. And if they're not, then we can make tweaks. The easiest place to start is interviewing your existing clients. It is so hard for us as business owners to see the forest through the trees so often, and it's hard for us to think objectively. Talk to our clients. And one of the things, I've got resources for your listeners, Adam. One of the things in there is a customer insight survey that walks them through 14, 15 questions they can ask. These are short 10, 15-minute conversations that'll really help you hone in. And oftentimes you'll find that your clients, your past clients, can articulate your value so much more clearly than you can yourself. So it's a great place to start. If you're just starting out, you don't have clients, you can still reach out to people in the target market that you're thinking about and interview them. Okay, so you can still have those conversations. From there, where else can we do research? Online forums. I don't care what it is. There's an online forum, at least one, for damn near any interest out there. Okay, they are all over the place. Great place to just go and observe and get information. Answer sites like Quora, Yahoo Answers, Reddit to a, I was going to say Reddit to a certain extent. Reddit's kind of a combination of like social network / answer site, but man, people on Reddit are very invested, very engaged. It's a great place to go to get information. Surveys. I'm not a huge fan of surveys, but if you want to send out like an email survey to your clients, the one thing I would say is keep it short. I always tell this story, and I'm not going to, name names, but I got a survey from my accounting software. Hey, help us out. Take a quick survey. Sure, no problem. I go online. It's a freaking 20-minute survey. Guys, do not do that to people. We don't have 20 minutes to give you our life story, okay? Ask like the top 3 questions that you want answers to. Make it super easy and simple, and you have a much higher likelihood of getting information back. So surveys it's like a double-edged sword too, right? Because if you're blindly sending out surveys, you got to send out so many surveys to get a reasonable sample back. I tend to shy away from surveys. Facebook groups is a place I do a lot of research on as well. Just go pick whatever keyword is part of your target audience, and there's at least 100 Facebook groups for it. I guarantee it. Yeah. It's, with the internet, it is so much easier for us to do research. You talked about, the next thing I was going to talk about on my list was social media groups. Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. I don't care where it is. Find the group and you can go. The information is there. Google searches, great place to do it. I mean, gosh, half the time you can do a search for like a white paper or a case study, and there's all kinds of great organizations do all kinds of research studies that they put out there and publish. There's so much great information you can have. And then the last one that I always touch on is ads. Sometimes people will do paid ads, whether it's Facebook or Google, to test. Hey, I'm thinking about this market. Let me put an ad together, target these people on Facebook, and see what kind of reactions I get. Is this going to be a good market for me or not? So that's another area where you can test. But once you do the research, now you can look back and go, okay, well, how accurate was I in my brainstorming? And where do I need to make tweaks, if any tweaks, right? Mm-hmm. And then from there, that third step is, okay, I've done I did my brainstorming, I did my research, I know it's accurate. Now I just need to create my ideal client profiles, or people call them buyer avatars. They're all the same thing. Yep. I just want you to get down on paper who those 1 to 3 ideal client types are that you intend to attract. And once you have that, now and it's top of mind, who you intend to reach and attract with your marketing. That's it.
I love it. It really is, in a way, that simple. It's not simple, but it is simple.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes,
right. You have to do the work, but it is simple if you just follow the process.
We are going to take a quick pause before we get into some of these tactical, how do we start doing this actively in our business stuff. Because I need to thank these cool guys. This is CharacterWall.com. They made me this water bottle. So nice caricature of myself, which I sent them an image. They custom made it. And then they dropped my logo on the back of it as well. Super, super cool, guys. I'm going to pop up a little video on the screen so y'all can check them out.
Thank you. Yes. Hey!
They got all kinds of cool products. They got coffee mugs. They got water bottles. They got all kinds of stuff. They're absolutely great. It took about 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks from a turnaround from the time I sent them the image. But super, super cool. It's a very unique gift, something that you could potentially use in your office for everybody's coffee mug, or send to clients as well. So with their character on it. So cool ways to go about using that as a great marketing product. Appreciate them for providing me with a water bottle that I get to enjoy as well. So and back to it, we've talked a lot about how you identify your target market. And I think that is a really, really, really critical piece. And we've talked a bit about strategies, the 3 steps that you take, to really build your target market. But now we need to shift that into action, right?
Yes.
So once we have them built, where do we go? Like, what do we do with all of that?
So one of my mentors always said, success starts with a list. And I always go back to this no matter what I'm working on. It's very appropriate in what we're talking about here. Once I know who those people are, now I need to create a list of where the hell those people are. Okay. And again, this is not difficult. It is simple. You need to do the work, but let's dig into an example. Okay. I did a target market workshop, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. When I was updating the slide deck, I put in a slide for, let's say we were targeting chiropractors. So what did I do? I went online, and within 15 minutes, I had probably a list of 20 to 25 places where chiropractors are. Okay, we need to think about, what associations do these people belong to? What blogs do they follow? What websites do they frequent? What books do they read? What podcasts do they listen to? Are there influencers that they follow specifically. What Facebook groups do they belong to? What LinkedIn groups do they belong to? For chiropractors, I looked at what kind of equipment do they buy? What manufacturers do they purchase from? Or what distributors do they purchase from? Right? And as you create that list, like I said, for chiropractors, I created a list in a matter of 15 minutes. And I had tons on there. If I had spent an hour and a half doing that, I could have had probably 2 to 3 pages worth of stuff. Once I have that list, now I have a list of where I can be. It doesn't mean I'm going to go into every single one of those, but now I have a list of going, hey, out of all the elements on this list, what do I want to start targeting as a tactic or a channel for me to get my message in front of those chiropractors? It's as simple as that. And if I have a 3-page list, I am not going to target every one of those, right? I'm going to go, hey, you know what? I think this makes the most sense for me to start. I'm going to join the Chiropractic Association, American Chiropractors Association. And these are the things that I'm going to do within that organization to start building up my presence and my credibility within the organization. I might say, you know what? I found these 3 manufacturers that chiropractors are buying from. I'm going to start reaching out to their salespeople or people in their sales and marketing department to see if I can start to develop some referral partner relationships. How can I add value to them, make them look better, and get in front of their chiropractors, right? So that's what you do. Once you have the list, you know the areas you can be to get your message in front of them, and you just start choosing which ones you're going to test.
You know, it's really interesting. You mentioned the professional association thing. I think that's one that a lot of people overlook, right? You know, for your example, as a chiropractor, you don't necessarily have to be a chiropractor to be involved in the chiropractic in a lot of those associations. You can be a marketer, you can be a business strategist, you can be a consultant, you can be any number of things. But they all have a place within those organizations, and being embedded within those organizations gives you a lot of access.
Absolutely.
Which people overlook. It's like, in my mind, it's, you know, everybody goes, oh, I belong to the Chamber of Commerce. That's a great organization, gives you a lot of access to local businesses. Well, if you're not a local business, you've got to find other ways to have that same level of access, and professional organizations are a great example of that. So,
yeah. And they can, it depends on the association. They usually have different terminology for like chiropractic members versus like vendor, you know, so usually it's like a vendor member or vendor partner or partner membership, you know, something like that. But they absolutely want people that can add value to their members as part of the association.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great call out. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and only because I fight this fight on social media every day, is you don't have to go after everything all at once, right? You know, and this is especially true in social media. I think it's like a rabbit. I know for a fact, because I've been there, it's a rabbit hole you can get lost in. And, you know, there's a lot of noise out there about, like, especially like the Gary V mindset, where, you know, you need to post 1,000 times a day on all 1,200 platforms. And the reality is unless you have a content team that has time to post 1,000 times a day on all those platforms, you probably have about enough time to manage 1, maybe 2 platforms as a business owner. You know, and so it's important to focus there as well. You know, you have to be somewhere. I'm a firm believer you have to be somewhere on social. You just need to decide which platform has your customers and your clients.
Yeah. And I think you're better, like you said, focusing, going deep in 1 or 2, you know, because just posting is not going to build the following. It's social media. You need to interact with people, engage with other people. That is how you're going to start to build a following. Posting is like laying ground cover, right? It's just showing that you're there, that you're active, so that if somebody goes to your website, they like what they see, they're like, oh, let me check them out on Facebook. so that they don't see that your last Facebook post was 12 months ago and they start to wonder, oh my God, are they still in business?
Yep.
So you got to get social.
Yep. No, I agree with that. And you're spot on that engagement is really the key to social. That's like a whole nother, actually, I think I've had like 3 or 4 shows just on that topic alone, but it's one of those things that I think is important to call out. So, so we've gotten to, go make that list, go find where they're at and go be present where they're at. And I think the social media thing of engaging in those platforms where your customers are at is important, whether it be social media, whether it be a professional organization, whether it be a Reddit forum, whatever that looks like, being present. People I think have the fallacy that if I just post stuff there, it's the, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. Right. And most often, and I can say this from personal experience, most often people don't care about looking at you. They care about how you're interacting with them. Yeah. Specifically. And so, posting is like, it's vanity. It's important, but it's vanity for when you go engage that you have meat for them to go latch onto as you build that relationship.
Yeah, totally agree. I think especially if we work with mostly service businesses. So, I think if you're coming from a place of service, trying to add value, help educate people, I think that's the approach that should be taken.
Yeah. So even in the retail space, right? I work with some e-com people and even in the retail space, there's opportunities to educate and the companies that educate me are the companies that I'm going to go out, that I'm willing to pay, 30%, more than maybe a Walmart price because they've educated me and shown me why a quality product makes sense versus going and buying the $9.99 t-shirt off a Walmart track, and so I think education is a huge piece and that, really leads to, in my opinion, another opportunity, which is what I do every week. It's a podcast. It's more than a podcast though. It's just video content and out there, educational video content out there where people can interact and engage with you on a more personal level. And it creates unique opportunities.
It absolutely does.
So from a business perspective, that's, hosting a webinar about, solving a common problem in your space. That's, going to a networking event and being a featured speaker to talk about a topic that's important within that networking group. All those kinds of things add up to an interesting level of credibility within your market space.
Yep, absolutely.
So we have talked about an absolute ton of stuff. I'm going to probably go back and rewatch this episode 3 or 4 times just to scribble down all my notes. But I always like to leave the end of the episode with a final thought, something that's, out of everything we've talked about that somebody can take away and directly apply right into their business tomorrow to start to be successful. So I leave the floor to you for your final thoughts.
Yeah, we did cover a lot of information. Don't get overwhelmed. Okay, just take the next measurable step. Okay, so we covered a lot of stuff about target market. Figure out what that next measurable step for you is out of all the stuff that we talked about, and just take the next step. And once you take that next step, then you can focus on the next step after that. It's so easy for us as entrepreneurs to get overwhelmed because we think about the larger picture and then there's all these things that we need to do. But when we break them down into manageable bites and simple steps, it becomes much, much easier to implement and to execute.
Absolutely love it. I am a huge fan of the KISS philosophy. Keep it simple, stupid. I remind myself of that all the time because I like to overcomplicate things way too often. So I appreciate your time. Where can people find you?
Best place, Adam, is to go to our website at rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. We did put together some resources for your listeners to help with this target market discussion and some of the other fundamentals of marketing, like messaging and creating that plan, if they just go to rialtomarketing.com/the-winning-tactics, they're free. They don't even have to opt in. Okay. Just take advantage of them. If you run into roadblocks, you need help with your marketing, just click the get a free consult button. I'd be happy to chat with you and help you push through those roadblocks and get some clarity. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely fantastic. We really appreciate the free resources for our listeners. It is a great set of tools. I will make sure that there's a link in the show notes as well for that. And those of you that are listening live on the platforms, we'll make sure we get a note in the comments as well. So we appreciate your time so much. We appreciate your knowledge and everything you brought to us today, because man, it was like a fire hose of information. So, as always, don't forget to check us out at thewinningtactics.com. You can find us on YouTube and all the major podcasting networks as well. So check that out. Replays are always every Thursday. We're live every Tuesday. And we look forward to seeing you next week on the Winning Tactics podcast.
Well, that wraps up yet another episode of the Winning Tactics podcast. You can find Adam on both the LinkedIn and Facebook platforms. And to support the show and ensure the success of the podcast, would you kindly consider visiting Patreon.com/Adam Sinkus? We greatly appreciate it. And until next time, from the Winning Tactics podcast, remember, culture is how your team behaves when no one is looking. Take good care, and thanks for listening.